Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of SteamLUG Cast. My name is Cheese, and with me this week I have filling in for John and Sword, we have DerRidda.
Hello, people.
And Mimness.
Hello, hello.
So, might be nice to spend some time introducing you guys. DerRidda, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
I actually don't do a lot of things. Cheese was nice to ask me here to fill in for John, but, well, interesting to this audience could be that I recently became a humble porter, but I naturally can't talk about that at all.
Very hush-hush.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You've been around in the SteamLUG community for quite some time. How long have you been a Linux gamer?
Linux gamer, it's hard to tell. Let's just say I've been a Linux user since at least early 2010. But really a Linux gamer, it just eased in over the time because I didn't want to boot out of my favorite operating system anymore and wanted to play more games on Linux. It just smoothly came over time.
Awesome. What about you, Mim? What do you do?
Well, I do lots of stuff. I guess the major thing that I'm doing, which is completely irrelevant to this, is that I'm working on a PhD in gender studies. It's not completely relevant, I guess. I mostly look at representations of gender and stuff, so that kind of stuff in games really interests me. What else do I do? I run an art blog with Cheese called Two Love Bees, so yeah, we do that a bit, and I play games.
How long have you been using Linux?
I think about 3 years. I guess 3 or 4 years since I met Cheese, pretty much.
Wow, you don't even know how long it's been.
Well, I don't know exactly when I got my own Linux machine. I think it was about 3 years ago. So, jeez.
Alrighty, so we'll move on to SteamLUG community stuff. This is normally the bit where Swordfisher tells us all about all the events we had. Be a little bit less in-depth. We had quite a lot of events over the past couple of weeks.
Indeed.
Nearly one a day. Notable ones were probably the Trine 2 event, where we had a couple of people from Frozen Byte join us and play along with us for a few hours, answer some questions, and generally have some fun. I think that was pretty good. Did you get to hang around for that for long, Mim? What did you think of that?
Oh, that's right. I totally did. I played a bit of a game. That was exciting but embarrassing because I hadn't played it for a while, and then so I jumped into a game with a developer and I felt like I should be good, but I was just really holding the team back. Gosh, that was embarrassing. Thanks for bringing it up. No wonder I blocked it out.
I would have liked to join, but I just would like to point out that Frozen Byte should get the let out and take care of the DRM-free versions on the Zero and the Humble Bundle, because they kind of leave you out in the open if you only own those and everybody plays on Steam.
Yeah, that is kind of frustrating with the DRM-free versions not being multiplayer compatible.
Yes. Yep.
But I think the event might also have been embarrassing for them. I know the game that I was playing, we had a bug where one of the characters was rendered upside down and walking through the underside of the floor.
That did make me feel a little bit better, actually, yeah.
Look, you can't program. No. Actually, Trine 2 is an awesome game, but I guess you feel like crap as a dev when you see embarrassing stuff like that.
It's pretty good. He didn't seem that embarrassed. He just laughed along with us, but maybe he was crying on the inside.
Oh no, it was awesome.
So we also had recently we had the Secret of the Magic Crystals event.
So many people came. It was so not a lot of people came. A few people came and joined in the chat and stuff, but really it was just me stroking my horses alone. I only came because Swordfisher talked about that game on the podcast a few sessions ago. I can't remember, maybe 3 sessions ago. Yeah. And I went, right, sold. This game sounds amazing in a really corny, awful sort of way. So I got it. And then I was like, I'll support the SteamLUG and come along. And I suppose it's a good thing I did.
Any of the recent events that you attended, DerRidda, that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I attended the last Dota 2 event where not that many people showed up. I blame event fatigue a bit, but, well, I had fun nevertheless, and eventually some people showed up and started their own game. So, I guess I was just too early.
It happens. We wouldn't mind getting a hand if anybody's keen to assist with events, to help out with promotion and general coordination. If you're interested in that sort of thing, give Swordfisher a yell. As far as upcoming events go, we've got Left 4 Dead 2 tomorrow, Dota 2 again the day after, and then pretty much one event a day for the next couple of weeks, starting with Serious Sam 3, Killing Floor, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, Counter-Strike Source, and TF2 as the ones following that Dota 2 event. And as always, if you've got anything that you'd like to see us run an event for, just give Swordfisher a yell or comment in the discussion thread, and we'll see what we can do.
So if Secret of the Magic Crystal can get in there, you can play any game.
That's right. We're going to look, as we said last time, we're going to look towards maybe doing some more single-player stuff with the hopes of giving people who aren't that interested in the multiplayer games a chance to participate and hang out and chat and enjoy games they like.
Is somebody going to stream that? Because that would add a lot of value for people who are just interested to participate but don't have the game themselves.
We streamed during the Amnesia events, and we've got a Twitch account set up, so we're planning to do that. It's just a matter of coordinating. I think Swordfisher would have done it if he did make it to the Secret of the Magic Crystals event, but sadly he wasn't able to make it.
He's a busy guy.
So moving on, as far as other community stuff that's been going on recently, I've been working on a 7-day first-person shooter challenge game. I started a little bit earlier because I couldn't get next week off, but I had this week off, so I've been hastily working away, and a couple of the other guys have been working on putting together a concept and for a SteamLUG team, which is going to be a sort of survival, slightly horror-themed game in which a team of humans must get to a safe zone before a ghost catches them, and they can halt the ghost by shining their lanterns on it, but their lanterns have limited fuel, so it's this kind of risk versus reward proposition. The player who plays as the ghost has to kind of strategically or stealthily or however they like try and sneak up on the people and pick them off one by one. But yeah, so we're about to make a start on that. 7-day first-person shooter challenge starts in just a couple of hours, so that'll be fun. We're also going to use the Source SDK base, so that's kind of nice to see a Linux team working on Linux with that engine and making something.
That sounds a bit like Left 4 Dead meets Luigi's Mansion.
Or Amnesia. They have the lanterns with limited fuel in Amnesia.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I am hopeful this turns out entertaining.
I think it will. And that's the thing, it's not a serious competition or any kind of, serious event. It's really kind of a casual, laid-back challenge to see if you can make something interesting within a week.
Yeah, it sounds good.
But other notable people are doing bits and pieces. Notch from Mojang.
Everybody knows who Notch is, but okay.
He's working on his at the moment. He started early like me. He's making a zombie game, because everybody's making zombie games.
Zombies are making zombie game.
I think that's what it is, really. So, moving on to Steam and Valve related news, we had that recent beta update come through just earlier today for me, yesterday for other people, including big picture showing Linux support for games in the store and better performance on Linux. Steam can run on hardware without USB support, thanks to some SDL2 improvements. Better support for XFS and large drives, and better support for offline mode and that sort of stuff. So good to see some little improvements there. It feels like they're really focusing on big picture stuff. If we look, there's a bit of a trend of that over the past bunch of change logs, but it's good to see that slowly but surely, Linux issues are being sorted out as well.
Yeah, we already are in a good state. I would say definitely a better state than the Mac client around the same time after its release. And I don't know if there are any really big outstanding bugs in the Steam for Linux client, except for that voice chat crash. But
The copy-paste bug's pretty irritating as well.
Yes, that's true, but at least the stuff is being worked on.
Yeah. But like you say, compared to the Mac client, we are certainly further ahead. And John left us some notes about stuff that's been happening on GitHub. Apparently, Half-Life and Counter-Strike have received some much-needed updates for older game-breaking bugs. Dota 2 is still getting the bulk of bug reports, but with the Dota 2 International competition running at the moment, it seems that most updates might be being queued for later. I can imagine that if they rolled those out during the middle of a competition, that would probably be awkward for everybody.
Yeah, but they could probably do that at least once, because even for Counter-Strike Go, they have a mechanic in place where you can just, from the beta options for a game, roll back to the last version of the game. So you are safe in that regard.
Well, if they've got, however many machines there and competitors doing their stuff, maybe they want to keep everything stable and focus on that, rather than having to roll those machines back if something goes wrong.
Probably.
Yeah, fair enough.
There was the recent screenshot that managed to find its way outside of Valve headquarters, much to the jargon of assorted people.
Yes, that was what looked like a changelog for 5 projects up on some employees' secondary monitor. The projects were Steam Client, Web Interface, Dota 2, and Source 2, and a 5th that never showed up. And Source 2, we have heard about that before, when some kids from 4chan visited Gabe Newell last year for his birthday. He pretty much just outright said they are working on the next Source engine, Source 2. But the really interesting tidbit in there was Left 4 Dead 3 being mentioned alongside Source 2, so kinda Left 4 Dead 3 coming up. That's the speculation here, nothing confirmed, but seems to look like it.
It's definitely not surprising, Left 4 Dead being one of the popular franchises that they've got going on at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how popular is Left 4 Dead 2. What do the Steam stats say?
I think it ranks fairly highly, but I think also internally that Left 4 Dead is popular and people want to work on it.
Everybody's making the zombie games.
I know, right?
But again, that is speculation, and you should head over to raftime.net. The link is in the show notes. There are a lot of other screenshots, mostly Dota related, because those were the guys that found it, Dota 2 subreddit. And look at it yourself and judge for yourself. Don't take our word for it.
For sure. Well, yeah. Alright, so we've had another bunch of greenlight titles announced within the past day or two, I think it was.
Indeed.
And included in that is 7 Days to Die, which is a zombie Minecraft-y type thing that still has a crowdfunding campaign running at the moment. I think it's got a couple of days left if you want to check it out. Maya, Door Kickers, Satellite Rain, which we've mentioned previously. John did a bit of a hunt. Apparently there's a game called The Novelist as well, which is running on Unity 3.5. They sound like they might be Linux friendly, but it's going to need to wait until they do an engine upgrade for that. And Crashtastic is likely to do Linux at some stage later.
Yeah, a quick shout out for Maya to celebrate the green light. They just went up for pre-order. If you missed that Kickstarter but are interested, go to the Maya forum. There is a I don't know how many percentage points off coupon in there if you are interested in pre-ordering, but so far it's pretty much tech demo levels of alpha, so don't expect too much of the game.
Do you know how long that coupon is valid for?
I don't know. I think it's valid. I really can't say that he didn't say anything. He dropped that link in, Simon Ross, the developer of Maya, and said use this coupon to get so many % off. So check it out for yourself.
Nice.
I did get a chance to have a look at some of those. Not the later ones that you mentioned, but I had a look at 7 Days to Die, which I thought, at first I did just sort of go, oh, I see, another zombie game. But I just watched the trailer and I was like, oh, actually it's really interesting that there's sort of the actual survival mechanic rather than just, pick up ammo, blast your way through the zombies or whatever. So I thought it would be, all the crafting and collecting and that you can farm in it, all of that kind of stuff. I was like, well, that's a really interesting take on it. I can't believe nobody's sort of thought to do that. How long have the zombie games been being pumped out?
Yeah, that's crazy scientist level of genius. Take Minecraft, take DayZ, smash them together till you have a game, and out comes 7 Days to Die.
Yeah.
I think DayZ does have some of those sort of survival elements, but I don't know that it has that whole board up your house, board up your windows, and get ready for night,
And 7 Days Today is pretty much Minecraft in the regard you can mine the entire area, you can dig into the ground, but unlike Minecraft, it has even some kind of load-bearing physics built in, so if you tunnel too deeply under something that is not supported, it will crash on top of you.
And they talk about using that for traps as well.
Indeed.
It also reminded me of Don't Starve a little bit, like in that you can just try and survive and move around, or you can just build up and really fortify. But I did also have a look at the other ones as well, and I thought I've never really paid much attention to the green light, sorry, but don't have a whole lot of time. But yeah, in sort of research for this, I had a look. And Maya looks really good. I would be really interested in Maya. It looks great.
Yeah, it's...
You may be surprised to learn that I backed that on Kickstarter.
You back so many things.
It's true. But yeah, no, it does look fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's pretty much tech demo levels of alpha now, but it should shape up during the month, and the next month first true gameplay mechanics and UI should come in. It's good that he is pushing that alpha out so early, so people really can see the whole development, not afraid of being judged too early. I mean, that's a bit of a ballsy move, because people always judge. You can put pre-alpha on it, they still judge you. But I think it's good. You see what you pledged for, and you see it early.
The other thing that I find really interesting about Maya, and maybe this is just reflective of the particular campaigns that I've... Many people are not paying... they're not investing a lot of effort into creating new technologies. It's a case of a lot of crowdfunding campaigns are path of least resistance, stay safe, pick middlewares to do stuff. But with Maya, it really looks like Simon is pushing the envelope for a lot of tech that's sitting under the hood there, and it's really impressive to see.
Yeah, he is... I think he built his own SDL2 based engine, an own render engine that is pretty demanding on your OpenGL instruction set. So there isn't even a Mac version yet, because until Maverick, Mac OS 10 didn't even support the OpenGL version he's targeting.
And that's another thing, thinking ahead. I mean, this game's going to be in development for a little while. Planning ahead and not pulling yourself down to the lowest common denominator stuff. And we see this in, say, Star Citizen as well, for example, that there are some developers who are happy to kind of take that longer view and really recognize the kind of timeframes involved with development, rather than trying to appeal to people who have the stuff to run something now. I think that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, that's why I'm on PC, because I like awesome technology. It changes faster than every 7 to God knows how many years.
So, moving on to gaming news. Normally we start off this by mentioning what we've been playing lately. I have had a little bit of time to kick around with Legend of Dungeon, which is this kind of multiplayer roguelike thing. It's kind of neat, kind of dungeon crawly, whack things with a kind of pixel arty style. It's nice. I like it. And I've also been playing a little bit of Faster Than Light as well. Beyond that, I've kind of been pretty busy making my own game. What about you guys? What have you been playing, DerRidda?
I have been playing Dota 2, which is personally a surprise to me because I really found all these MOBA action RTS games completely dreadful from a distance. I tried Hon, and that was completely awful. But Dota 2, I have friends who play it, so I got mentored into the game a bit. And it's actually fun now. I'm actually enjoying a game I thought I would never enjoy, which is surprising, to say the least. And, well, I played some wargame European Escalation, which is I'm also enjoying, even though I'm completely dreadful at it, because I completely suck at every RTS there is on the planet. But I like the setting, the 70s Cold War setting, which isn't all that used that much in any kind of game that deals with war and stuff. But I'm dreadful at it, as I said. And then, last but not least, I've dipped back into Neo Scavenger, which probably most of you haven't heard about.
No, I haven't. Tell us about it.
Nope.
That's a roguelike that plays a bit like a board game on a map with hexagon grids, and you are waking up in a cryo center and have to just survive at first. You go around the place, scavenge cities for loot, for resources to survive, for clothing so you don't freeze to death. And it's a roguelike, so if you die, you're dead, you have to start again.
Nice.
It's by Blue Bottle Games, and there is the developer used to work at BioWare, he used to work in Dragon Age, so there is a bit of high profile behind it. You can alpha fund it now, buy it on the Zora or buy it on bluebottlegames.com, I think. And only one problem is it's Flash-based. You get a standalone binary, but it's Flash on Linux, so it's a bit poopy. But since it's turn-based, the performance problems aren't really all that present because turn-based just runs well everywhere. So, Mim, what have you been playing?
Well, obviously I've been playing a bit of Secret of the Magic Crystal. I'm finally done with that game. I guess I got a kind of ironic enjoyment out of it. It really is. If you're one of those people that wants to complete stuff, it is definitely an exercise in patience. There's a limited amount of game mechanics going on there. It's pretty much just press the arrow at the right time to make your horse do the thing that it's supposed to do so that you can train it and then breed it and then sell it. Because you need, you're trying to get to a level 5 horse, you need a level 1, and a level 1 will make a 2, and then you need 2 2s to make a 3. So in order to get your level 5 horse...
Exponential curve.
It takes a lot of horses. But I did it.
Half of the quests are kind of, rather than doing this kind of Guitar Hero press the buttons at the right time mechanics, there's also stuff where you click next and it runs you through a commentary of a race and tells you if you won.
Yeah, actually, the only gameplay stuff is in the training of the horse, and then you sort of send them out into the world to do their quests or do their races or whatever, and it is just click on it and they're gone for a while. Or it's, with the quests, they're just gone for a while and then they come back and it says, you finished this quest, thanks,
So Pokemon with horses?
Maybe.
Paired with a football manager where you only get to see the game instead of play it?
Well, you don't even get to see it. It just tells you. There's just bits of text that say, horse 1 is in the lead.
That's a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, your horse is coming around the corner. I didn't have high expectations.
If you could actually see it running over the hills, its mane in the wind being all glorious, that might be something, but just text. I mean, horses are mostly visual medium, I think.
I saw it in my mind, in my imagination. I was there every step of the way. But the funny thing is that, I don't want to make fun of the makers of the game, obviously, but their English wasn't so great. And part of the, when your horse is in a race and it's just giving you text about what's going on in the race, you can just skip that and go about training your other horses. But if you read it, it's all disjointed, like it's just randomly generated. So one minute your horse is in front, and then the next it's at the back, and they're going, "What happened? Come on, go!" They also have weird names. Well, okay, they're just, I think they're strange, but yeah. So it's like Jeremy or whatever is in the lead, and now Jeremy is suddenly lost, and I'm going, no, why? But then Jeremy wins overall anyway, so it's fine. But it's sort of funny. Anyway, besides Secret of the Magic Crystal, I also have been playing Brutal Legend. Just finished my first playthrough ever of Brutal Legend. It's not 100% complete, but I finished the quest lines, so that's pretty cool. I was really excited about that when it first came out, but it was only available on PlayStation, I think, and that made me sad. On Xbox, was it? Yeah, sorry, Xbox. So yeah, it was exciting for me to finally have an opportunity to play that, and on Linux even.
I was kind of surprised at how short it is, but there's like a lot of content outside the main quest that's you can spend a lot of time with after you finish the main quest or before you finish the main quest. There's a lot of content to the game.
Yeah, frankly, I've grinded that content always before moving on to the next section, and half of it isn't worth it. Races against that big troll-like thing were awesome, but other than that, there were a lot of just copies of the same. Here, kill these guys over here. Sit in that cannon with your car.
Defend this point.
Use the mortar. There were like a million of those all over the place.
Going back to Secret of the Magic Crystals for a moment, something that I found really interesting after looking up the developer was that they've worked on titles like Need for Speed Undercover, Hot Pursuit, Witcher 2, Driver San Francisco. I mean, it seems to be a long way from other stuff that they've worked on, this horse game.
Maybe they're finally fulfilling their horsey dreams. This is a game that they've wanted to make all along.
Or they're just a bunch of sad ex-studio employees who worked on that but had really not much of a creative input on it because it was a publisher piece. Now they're on their own and doing a game they need to do to survive. To be a bit negative.
Well, the studio's been running since 2006, and this is the first independent title that they've done.
And that's what they choose. I mean, where's a slow clap?
But if anybody does like that kind of, collect the things and do the things, if they find that appealing, it also has badges and Steam cards and emoticons and things.
Yep, sure does.
While a horse emoticon is really tempting, I think I pass on that one.
Who knows? It could be a brilliant postmodern masterpiece. Maybe it was all intentional. I think it's actually done sort of okay because it's incredibly cheap. You can buy through their website like a 48 pack of the game if you're really keen and give it to your 47 friends.
Give it to the local kindergarten.
Yeah.
Maybe they want something a bit more stimulating than that in a school environment, but yeah. Yeah, it also doesn't have any horse sounds, which is really strange. Once I realized it, it just sort of blew my mind. I was like, this game is... Okay, firstly, it's called Secret of the Magic Crystal, but then it's about training horses, and there are no horse sounds. I was like, I don't know. Beautifully postmodern.
There's something sinister going on there. We have yet to uncover its true mysteries, its true secrets of the Magic Crystal.
I'm waiting for the DLC.
Screw it, sequel.
Actually, on their website, they're talking about how many more sales they have to make until they'll do a complete sequel.
Oh my gosh.
What's the number?
I'll have to play it.
50,000 sales?
It's optimistic.
Oh, what have they got? How long have they got to go? Should I hold my breath?
They are at, as of last week, I think, they're at about 20,000 sales.
Oh, so they're nearly there.
Okay, so moving on.
One last thing. They're not horses. They're magic horses. They're actually unicorns and Pegasus, and there's like a fire horse and an ice horse, and what's the other one? A demon horse. There aren't any horses. They're all magical horses.
I like that the Pegasi have wings on the heels.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty weird.
Which is actually, now that's actually a bit sound. If they want to hover in place, they need to balance themselves out a bit. So they need to get the draft from the base of support. That's very sound.
They have very small wings.
Tiny, tiny wings, yeah.
Maybe they just flap really, really fast.
Alrighty, moving on. So last week John pointed me towards a game called Gunpoint, which I hadn't actually heard of at that point. He threw me a blog post which talked about how the developer was looking at doing Mac and Linux ports at some stage soon. A lot of that would depend upon how they went for fixing some of the compatibility problems they've got, which may involve bringing on a third party or doing a port themselves or so forth. But I had a chance to read up a bit more about the game. It's this kind of stealth, sci-fi-ish platformer thing with this kind of hacking mechanics where you can connect any electronic device to any other electronic device. So you might connect a door to a metal detector and then do something that triggers a guard with a gun to walk through it, which opens a door that you couldn't otherwise get through. It's a really interesting kind of puzzly type stuff going on. Have either of you guys had a chance to look at it?
I looked at it a while ago, and I was kind of forgetting about it because it didn't have a Linux version at the time. But it looked fairly interesting. It looked like something I would play, a bit of a puzzler that is something new, that isn't just your average push crates here puzzler, but that has really its own thing going, and an interesting thing at that. Wiring everything to everything. It looked interesting.
I like that it's kind of balanced out with these kind of action elements as well. You know, this kind of potentially deep puzzling game that has these kind of action-y platformer elements. It's a good mix.
Yeah, I was sold on the trailer by the punching noises. Check out the trailer if you get a chance, it's pretty awesome.
Next item that we had was I spotted a thread, I don't know, a week or two ago in the Dragon's Lair community hub. Now, Dragon's Lair is this game from the early 90s, which originally shipped on Laserdisc, I think. It's animated by Don Bluth, who's a renowned traditional animator, and tells the story of a bumbling knight who ventures into a dragon's keep to rescue a damsel in distress. But I used to play this for hours and hours on my old Amiga. But I noticed this thread where the developers had said, the thread was all, can we have a Linux port? And they sort of said, well, if there's enough interest. And someone was that's a bit dismissive, that's never going to happen. And they went, well, if 50 people say they want it, then we'll do it. And at the moment, I think there's well over 100 posts now. So I sent them an email and I said, hey, bit of a fan of this game, used to play it a lot. Can you confirm whether or not this is being looked into now? And they said, yes, we're certainly considering providing a Linux version of Dragon's Lair. I hope to have updates for you in the coming weeks, but feel free to tell your group that it will happen. So that sounds like confirmation to me. That's pretty awesome.
That is indeed awesome.
People power.
What platform hasn't Dragon's Lair been on yet? I mean, it's a video with about the depths of a DVD menu, considering the controls.
I have it on DVD.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But no, it's fun and kind of silly, and if you're into that kind of thing, it's entertaining for a little bit.
You can relive the magic of your youth. It's important. If you played it before, you get to play it again.
It's pretty punishing. It's not a very forgiving game.
It's a continuous QuickTime game, QuickTime event game.
Back before trendy kids decided that stealing Apple's trademarks was a good way to label game mechanics.
Everything that Apple doesn't have ownership over name-wise is probably good because they will just sue the crap out of everybody. Fun fact, they sued some woman that had a brand called Apfelkind, Apple Child, that were making stuff for children, clothing and whatever, and Apple tried to sue them because they used an apple in their logo. I mean, that tells us.
Wow.
Gee.
Alrighty, next up, Soulcaster 1 and 2, as well as Escape Goat. by Magical Time Beam have received Linux ports very recently. It appeared in a indie game standard bundle, I believe, as its debut, and that was ported by none other than Flipperjibibo. So it's kind of neat. Apparently, they've had pretty good response from Linux sales.
Yeah, there was a really nice tweet that showed a pie chart with a very significant Linux portion, and he just drew a little painty smiley in it, and he was obviously quite happy about the results, which is a good sign. We should pat us on our back, even if we didn't buy it, because why not? Let's have good feelings, everybody.
But apparently Ian was really surprised at the level of support that Linux users were showing, not just in the during the sale, but also just feedback in general. Yeah, fingers crossed that leads him to consider ports of his future games, and maybe even Day Zero Linux support. Should be cool.
That's the important thing, I think, because if we can't make developers happy with our involvement and our money, they will not make us happy with games. That's the bottom line.
For sure. The Dota 2 International is running at the moment for anybody who's interested in watching other people play Dota. I haven't been following it much myself. I can't see how far through the tournament they are, but people seem really excited about it, and it's kind of neat to have a game that's Linux compatible, that's at this kind of professional esportsy type level.
Yeah, I only briefly watched this Twitch TV stream when Gabe Newell was on stage for a moment, because Gabe Newell was on stage and who knows what he might drop, but it was nothing special. I wanted to watch it a bit further, but they tried to make me care about the actual athletes, which in their defense all the sports do. They kind of want me to care about the athletes, but actually I just want to see the game being played at a high level. It's a bit unnice from me towards the athletes, but I don't care about them. I said it.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know. I think I'd watch if somebody I knew was playing, but I don't know. If it came down to watching someone play or playing myself, I'd probably just spend the time playing myself.
I had a try of it a while back. I have to admit I was friggin' terrible, and I was too ashamed in the training mode and that kind of stuff to actually end up getting out there and trying to play with some real people. So I don't know. I sort of let that one go, but then during the Magic Crystal event, John was watching it, and he was making some pretty excited sounds. He was like, "Oh wow, oh that's great, this is fantastic," and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should get back into Dota 2, give it a second chance."
Yeah, it's a shame that we don't have John around while the internationals are, because he could have told us everything about it. He's knee deep into it, and he could have talked about that a lot more than all of us combined.
Yeah, I kind of want to apologize for that. But there'll be you can catch John in the SteamLUG IRC channel when he's around. He will be more than happy to talk your ear off about Dota 2 if you're keen to listen. Or you can hop on and watch it yourself.
That's probably the easiest solution. Look at it yourself. You can watch it from within the client and even choose your own shoutcaster, which is kind of awesome. Arguably, I've never watched any esports, but that support is quoted to be quite good within the client.
I think, are they also doing, is it all in English, or are they doing different languages?
They probably, casters can cast for that game, and then you can select them, and that probably means you can find any language there is. Ima in the chat on Mumble says different languages. They are doing English and Russian, probably Chinese too, so guess you can get a lot of languages there.
That's pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat. Would be neat if, I don't know, John sort of said that he thought it was locked down so that only approved casters could commentate. It would be kind of neat if you could just arbitrarily offer your own commentary and sort of do something that was community specific. If you ran a, say the SteamLUG guild, if SteamLUG Dota enthusiasts wanted to have their own cast, that would be kind of neat. But yeah, so also happening recently was that Monaco was confirmed to be on its way to Linux.
Yes, and I don't know much about it besides that it's a very colorful multiplayer co-op heist game. Does any of you have played it?
I haven't played it. Like you, I've kind of sat from the distance. I was waiting to see if it got a Linux port before getting too invested in it, but I really dig the art style. It's pretty neat. And I've watched a few trailers and a couple of first impressions type things, and the mechanics sound kind of interesting as well.
So it's definitely confirmed then, is it? For Linux?
Yes, it was confirmed by Andy N in one of the Steam Hub discussion threads.
All right, I can start to care a little bit more. Cool. It does have a really interesting sort of visual style, I think. I don't really know much about it, but it does look kind of interesting. I'm usually pretty swayed by design, the styles of games, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
There's also an interview up on gamingonlinux.com where I guess it was Liam talked to the developer about Monaco coming to Linux. So if you're interested, read that.
Yeah. That's worth a read as well. It's really good to see, it feels like we've had a few more interviews lately come up on GOL, and it's really positive to have that kind of content out there, celebrating developers who are supporting our platform.
And it's good to have something to show developers and publishers to... Here's a site where you will reach this elusive Linux gamer audience. If you put it on there, they probably read it.
Also happening within the last fortnight was the Duke Nukem Megaton Edition has now available for Linux.
Yay.
For anybody who's into Duke Nukem.
Wasn't there also another game, like one with an Asian-looking dude that was also in that pack? Is that also coming to Linux?
I don't know if Shadow Warrior is coming to Linux or not. I think it was the original game. If it is, it's probably runnable in DOSBox.
So chat here says yes, and all of it is on sale for 66% off, so if you only have pennies to spare, now it's time to spare them.
Now is the time. If you've been holding your breath for Shadow Warrior and Duke Nukem, now is your time.
I mentioned the 7-day first-person shooter challenge earlier, but what I didn't mention was the sort of pre-event thing that went on, which was the 7-hour first-person shooter challenge, where participants were encouraged to attempt to make a first-person shooter game within 7 hours. The reason I'm mentioning this is that there are 16 titles which have Linux support. I think there were 30, so that's about half, and that's pretty impressive. So Linux builds or playable Linux versions of these games. Of them, I've only had a chance to check out 3 or 4, but I can heartily recommend Saloon Shootout Simulator, made by SteelRaven7, who was the guy that I did the ice skating game that I did last year with. And in that, you play a kind of character in a sort of western bar in the middle of a shootout. You can't reload your weapons, you just go toss it aside and find another one with ammo, and you can kick tables over and take cover behind them and stuff. It's pretty neat. I was very impressed that he was able to put that together within 7 hours.
Yeah, very much to his credit. That looks interesting, and he concentrated on just the gameplay, it seems, because, let's be honest, in 7 hours you don't do anything great with graphics, but you're shooting at what looks like upright standing pills.
I think that might be a default kind of character placeholder in Unity as well. But he's kind of gone with a kind of very blocky Spartan feel for the rest of it, and it does kind of match the rest of the style there, I guess.
Yeah, again, you don't riff anybody for the visual design on any 7-hour game.
Oh, but there were a couple of nice-looking titles amongst the list there.
Yeah, what's interesting, this list pretty much consists exclusively of Unity games, with the exception of one Craft Studio game and 2 Flash games.
One Flash and one
game,
Twine.
one Twine game. I mean, Unity is big amongst indies. That's just how it is. And it's good for us because they support us, so let's hope we have this kind of split with bigger indie games in the future.
Well, we're looking at the buzz in the 70 FPS community. It seems like everybody is using Unity. I think it's going to be well over 95% of participants are going to be using Unity by the looks of things, which is, it's kind of positive in that makes Linux builds a possibility, an easy possibility for us. I talked to a number of developers and gave them a bit of a nudge, saying, hey, you can put Linux builds together, and a couple did, and that was good. It was just press of a button for them. But I have to say, on the other hand, I am kind of sad to see that there's a massive drop compared to last year of engine diversity or tech diversity. I think Unity's great, and it certainly empowers a lot of people. I think it was a lot more interesting when people were trying to do stuff from scratch as well,
Yeah, but I would even say that's besides the point of 7-day FPS. 7-day FPS is a design challenge, not a tech challenge. What are you going to accomplish if you're going for your own tech during that time? If you already have your own tech, you might use it, but you are not going to design good tech and then a game on top of it in 7 days. At least not
7 hours.
Yeah, 7 hours as well. Yeah, we don't even need to talk about.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 7 days.
7 hours as well. Yeah, 7 hours. It's clear that you're just not even trying to use your new tech you have no idea about.
Well, last year we did something from scratch, and I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, but if you had to say it, wouldn't you agree that if you already had some tech, you knew well, you could have made more out of the game?
Maybe, but it's a challenge, and the idea of saying that you're going to challenge yourself to make to make something from scratch, if that's pushing the limits of what you can do, then that's what it's all about. It's not about staying in the safe zone.
I call that car making the 7-day FPS challenge, because car making only does tech. That was a joke, a bad one.
It'll be interesting to see who they have for keynote speakers this year. Last year they had a number of fairly notable industry figures saying something about first-person shooters. So keep an eye out for that on the 7dfps.org website within the next hour or two.
I just wanted to say, I only got a chance to look at one of the games from the 7-hour thing. It blows my mind also that people managed to produce this in 7 hours. It's just, I know it's not really my area. I don't really know exactly what's involved in developing something like this, but I'm just like, oh my god, you put this out in 7 hours? That's amazing! But the one that I had a look at was A Song of Ice and Light, which I guess I was drawn to because I watch Game of Thrones.
A Song of Ice and Fire. Yes, I'm reading that.
Yeah. I wonder if this has anything to do with that. But it doesn't. And it was really interesting. It's another game that is interested in light rather than, shooting things. So you've got your torch. It's on like over an abyss, so there's just blackness and you can fall, and you're standing on these huge chunks of ice, and your torch, like your light, hurts the ice. It's quite fragile, so it will drop. So you've got to try and use the light to find your path, but also in doing that you risk sort of destroying your path. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm sort of into the games that are less about the shooting and more about sort of exploring and different kind of mechanics like that. But I found that one, I thought it was interesting.
So it's like memory with a maze. You blink your flashlight, hope to see as much as possible before destroying the ice, and then try to move through the darkness?
Yeah, it's got, there's a gameplay trailer, so I didn't have time to download it or whatever and play it myself. I just watched the little gameplay trailer, and even just watching that, I felt sort of tense. It's like, it's quite simple, and it looks quite simple, but it's got a lot of atmosphere already, and hopefully someone will do something more with that, because I thought, oh, that's really great. I was worried, and I wasn't even playing it. I was like, oh god, oh no, that's too long. Oh, be careful.
Cool, so moving on. crowdfunding. We forgot to mention during the last cast that there was a crowdfunding campaign to get access to a bunch of Creative Commons licensed game art by some published artists and developers, and they had a sort of stretch goal target thing, which if they reached it, they would release everything under CC0, which is a public domain type waiver of rights, which they reached that, and so all of that art and stuff is now free for everybody to do whatever they like with, which is really nice and uplifting that there were developers who cared enough to get together and put something like that together.
Yeah, that's very cool.
You should all watch that trailer, because I was butt cringing like crazy but laughing at the same time. It's one of a kind, I just want to say. You should watch it.
I didn't think it was that bad.
But other than that, it's a good project. I personally was not very interested in all the content. I downloaded some of the soundtracks and not my cup of tea, but it's good that something like that exists, and I hope that it catches on for other things, other game art, game assets, so that we might see more of those.
Yeah. And I think some of this stuff was from projects that didn't get made, and some from projects that did. So that's kind of cool way to give new life to stuff as well.
But if I was a mean person, which I'm not always, I would say that it's a nice way to monetize your failed projects.
Yeah. Also happening at the moment is a crowdfunding campaign from a Mesa contributor who wants to crowdsource funds to cover 2 weeks full-time work to implement some new bits and pieces into the Mesa.
It seems like he wants to implement one kind of debugging extension that is needed for OpenGL 4.3 support, or what have I read? I can't really go into detail. I guess even to understand that pitch you would have to know what he's proposing even, which is a bit technical.
It is.
But in essence, it's good to see that people are trying to monetize free software development in all the new ways that have come up in the recent years.
Yeah, I kind of in two minds, like on one hand there's definitely, people need to eat, and that's a pretty big deal. Often, as they mention in this pitch, often contributors are students who just doing part-time stuff on free software projects, and that's great in itself. That's good. But then for people who are out in the professional world, who don't have who have higher overheads, I guess, if they've got to try and contribute something significant or meaningful to an open source project, that can have potentially higher requirements, or it can be a bigger ask to contribute time for free. So it's kind of interesting, this notion of asking for crowdsourced money, and obviously this doesn't directly benefit gamers, but it does increase the ease with which developers will be able to work with technologies on Linux. And there have been a number of developers who've been fairly vocal about how behind other platforms Linux is as far as debugging stuff for at this level.
Well, maybe they are just bad coders and Linux coders just write excellent code the first time around. Which isn't true, but I guess they have a point. To get back to Neo Scavenger even, the developer was discussing to switch to Hexel Fixel, another engine that would move him away from Flash binaries. But there he had a problem which he rated heavily, which was that he didn't have proper debugging for his environment on all the platforms he wanted to deploy on, which is a big deal if you're a developer and don't want to waste time on reading through your source code where a debugger could just show you where you done goofed.
Right. It's really interesting with crowdfunding being, a little bit more prominent now, and this is not the first, free software oriented crowdfunding campaign that I've seen. I'm wondering whether or not this is going to start to become more popular, and it'll be interesting to see whether what the balance of, organizations asking for money to cover rewarding community members versus community members themselves asking for money, like this particular person is.
I guess we have to take a wait-and-see approach for that, because unless somebody tries, and I guess none of us is in a position to try it, we won't know how this turns out if the community is willing.
And crowdfunding is not, something that's never been done before in this context either. I mean, we were discussing earlier, Blender, for example. How many years ago was that?
Many, but I guess nobody even used crowdfunding as a term back then. They actually called it ransom publishing under the Street Performer protocol, where the idea was, we have Blender here, which at the time was proprietary software. The company went belly up and said, if you give us $10,000 within that time frame, we will release it under GPL, which obviously happened. But they called it ransom publishing back then. And if you take a look at what crowdfunding is, as far as stuff that already exists is concerned, the term ransom isn't even that far off.
Although I view crowdfunding generally as being the opportunity to support someone in giving them the chance to try and do something, rather than sort of a ransom type proposition. The notion that if you can't raise enough, then we're not going to waste your money. I think that's kind of key and critical to the success of this kind of model, I guess.
But just on a hypothetical basis, if Adobe went out and said, yeah, okay, if you manage to crowdfund $10 million in that time frame, we will open source Photoshop, which is completely ridiculous, but let's just say it. The internet would be on fire and everybody would be completely crazy about it. Even more crazy than somebody coming out and saying, hey, give us $10 million and we will make something free software from the beginning that will just completely stomp Adobe stuff.
Yeah. And that would be kind of sad because, presumably the people wanting to make something from scratch wouldn't have the resources, while Adobe would.
Adobe would already have something and would get money for just changing the licensing agreement. That's in essence it.
It's a what you know thing, people know Photoshop. There's the scary unknown in someone wanting to come and try something different. But I think that's an important part of the crowdfunding thing, is that it doesn't always have to be the ransom thing, like we've got this and we'll give it to you if you give us money. Like, I really like that it provides people who just have a different vision, that it is like a Kickstarter thing. It does kickstart you. I like it. The chance to get something new out there when you might not otherwise have the chance. So yeah, it was like you were talking a bit about this yesterday when you were talking about Blender, and comparing that to Photoshop and the GIMP. It's like people keep wanting to make the GIMP like Photoshop because that's sort of what they know, but with Blender it's like been a bit more free to develop however, to suit the needs of the people rather than what people expect that it should be.
Well, there are a lot of people out there complaining about how different Blender is from Maya and 3ds Max.
Damn, those people can shut up because they ruined my argument.
No, actually, your argument was my argument that I made yesterday and forgot about. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That, of course, makes it 100% true, and I guess that settles it.
Yeah, well, if DerRidda said it, must be true.
The difference with Blender, though, is that the development community, and this is a little bit in the GIMP, is that the sort of core user community and the development community for Blender aren't really interested at all in trying to emulate other packages. They're interested in pushing new ground and doing new things, rather than trying to follow somebody else's lead. Whereas projects like LibreOffice, obviously are trying to aim for feature compatibility with Microsoft Office. But yeah. Also happening in crowdfunding news, the 7 Days to Die game that we mentioned previously reached its funding goal earlier in the week. Still has a little bit of time to spare if anybody wants to check that out.
It's like 5 days, so depending on when you listen to this podcast, when it's on demand, you might have missed it already.
In which case, we can laugh at you from the past. Ha ha ha.
Oh,
Nice.
And I got an email this morning from the Battle Worlds Kronos team, who are making a turn-based strategy in the style of, or inspired by, classic games like Battle Isle, saying that their alpha client now has Linux support. I haven't had a chance to try it because I didn't back at the alpha level, but I supported that project, and I'm looking forward to playing it natively when it reaches beta status.
Yay!
yeah, that was. I saw the kicks. It was Kickstarter. It wasn't Indiegogo, yes.
Yeah, it was.
So I saw it and figured it's interesting, but I'm not going to fund it. I'm just taking a wait and see approach. If it's good enough, it's definitely on the buy list. It's interesting, but it's that level of interesting. Let's see how that turns out, and not just toss money at something you don't know anything about.
I was kind of interested in the game. Kind of played Battle Isle a fair bit on my Amiga back in the day, and I sort of realized that's sort of a genre, that kind of sci-fi turn-based strategy. I don't have anything like that in my games library at the moment, and was keen to support somebody who looked like they were pretty serious about making it something like that.
Yeah, definitely. But what I personally was missing was the track record of the company that made the game, because the last thing they made was adventure games.
Oh, that too. They make adventure games.
Yeah, they made the Book of Unwritten Tales series, if you can call 2 games a series.
I haven't actually had a chance to play them, but they look kind of interesting, and I'm kind of happy to throw money at anybody who's trying to make adventure games. Good on them.
If you are only going to play one, definitely take the first one, because in my personal opinion, it's just flat out the better game.
The idea of playing point-and-click adventure games out of order is quite bizarre.
Actually, the second game is a prequel, so there is some
Oh.
inherent bizarreness in that.
Also bizarre.
But it sadly took the least interesting character and thought it's a good idea to make a prequel with that wannabe Guybrush Threepwood guy who meets Han Solo, who is not very interesting.
Yeah, I can see how that could probably be off-putting.
And the sidekick, the second character in this game, is a furry alien that doesn't even speak, and playing as a character that can't even properly speak in an adventure also takes away a bit from the experience.
I really enjoyed the Goblin series, and none of those people could talk.
Well, check it out for yourself. I don't know, are there demos on Steam? At least the first game had a demo.
I own them both, so I will get to play them eventually.
Cool.
So, was there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on before we finish up?
Yes, I wanted to announce that I am privately and personally going to Gamescom in the end of August. And, well, I'm there on my own, and I won't possibly have the ability to check out everything, but if there are any interesting Linux games going to be displayed there, I want to know about it, so my shout out to the community is make me a list of games you want me to take a look at, and maybe bring some fresh information back home. I can't promise videos, but I can at least try to talk to developers. So make me a Google Doc list, show me what's there, because I can't figure that out on my own, and let's see how much I can return of precious, precious information.
So I'll set something up. In the meantime, if anybody wants to shoot me stuff, I will make sure it gets in the list. I do notice that Crytek are going to be there, and it would be super interesting to hear if they have filled that Linux position that they advertised a little while back. And if they hadn't, it would be kind of interesting to get an idea of what kind of response they've had as well.
On the list.
And I had a very, very quick look at the exhibitor list, and there are a lot of people who are going to be there.
Indeed, I'm already scared by the whole scope of that thing, and by many, many sweaty young German people.
Yeah, we found when we went to PAX that there was no way we could see even a quarter of the content there, and that was probably the biggest thing for me. Was that, you know, if I go somewhere, I kind of want to experience all the stuff, but that just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There were a lot of lines, but that was good to see. It was just unfortunate that you couldn't wait in all the lines to see all the things. I mean, you could see them. That's pretty much what I took away from it. Having just a really quick look, having a look at somebody else having a turn was sort of enough for me to work out whether I was interested in the game or not, but I didn't necessarily need to try it for myself. So yeah.
And for the talk content, they had sort of 2-hour queues for 45-minute content, which meant that if you wanted to queue for anything, you were definitely going to miss a whole lot of other stuff. But hopefully, you'll have a better experience at Gamecom.
Yes, it'll be great.
We will see about that.
It will be great.
And we'll get you back afterwards at some stage to give us a bit of a recap on how it went.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know what I get and how I will distribute it, but everything I find out, I will share with you people. That's for sure.
We are relying on you, DerRidda. We have to live vicariously through you, so go and suck all the life out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
And on that note, we might finish up. Thanks so much for joining us this time, guys, and we'll catch you at some stage again in the future.
Thanks.
See ya.